Mi gente linda, and welcome to PanaVizion, the Todo SoFlo podcast that brings you all local stories, news, and music with your super fly, super awesome hosts, Anette y Clari, the co-founders of Pana MIA Club.
Yes, for those of you who do not know, Pana MIA Club is a collective that's making finding local entrepreneurs and artists easier than finding a tequeño in Doral. Every episode, we're going to bring you a new entrepreneur doing amazing things in your community for a quick discussion, and then we'll also bring in a musician with a new release.
Today, we welcome Sara from Dear Eleanor to discuss the creative scene in Miami, and later, we'll hear from a musical artist, Enrique, from the Miami-based band Stillblue to hear their latest EP, Paint Me Funny. But before we get to that, Clari, ¿cómo andas? How you doing, babe?
Tranquila. Really happy it's Friday. And also feeling like I'm really looking forward to shouting out the new panas we got this week.
Oof, absolutely. Tell me.
Yes, let me begin with Luna Bell Beauty. They're an esthetician based out of Miami.
Okay, and then we have Pigeon Society, my favorite bird brand.
It's true.
Shout out to Leo. I love that boy. He's an artist from Miami.
We also have Sea and Salt Spa. They're a Black-owned spa offering non-invasive treatments to feel good in your body.
And then we have a band that you might know is called Stillblue. So they're a 5-piece band emulsifying indie rock, folk, and all country, and we'll definitely get to know them a little bit more later on.
Speaking of people we're going to get to know really well in this episode, we also have Dear Eleanor. They're a community space based out of Wynwood that's focused on education, connection, and accessible events.
And then next we have Cuerpo Miami, or MIA, organic and natural body products made in Miami. I am fully excited to try these out. Whenever I see them, I'll make sure to buy something because their graphics are just so cute.
So cute. We also finally have Planet Ugly, and I'm really excited about them. They just signed up today, so welcome to the club.
Welcome.
They're a printmaker and mixed media artist. So
my heart is always happy when another artist joins the collective. I'm like, yes, more. And that is also putting us at 155 members. So like, yes.
That's amazing. I can still remember when we were at 50, the double digits.
Yes,
you know,
and we were like, yes.
But honestly, truly, thank you for everyone who has joined so far. I cannot tell you how excited Annette and I get when we get an email saying that someone else has joined the club. So thank you so much. And if you're interested in joining but haven't yet, it's really easy to join. Just DM us. It's a quick form. It's free to join, and we'll make a profile for you. And eventually, we'll put you up on our keyword searchable directory.
Yes. Yeah. Big shout out to Jen and Jeremy, by the way, for helping us develop that locals directory. So anyways, it's important to stay educated on what's going on with our panas, but also with our local community. So luckily, Clari and I are here to catch you up en lo que está pasando in South Florida in our segment, Meanwhile in SoFlo.
Yeah, so meanwhile in SoFlo, we have Smash Miami. They reached out to us. They're an organization here based in Miami called the Struggle for Miami's Affordable and Sustainable Housing. They said that insurance premiums are increasing and displacing low-income Black and Latina homeowners across Miami. And elected officials are doing nothing. So what you can do is actually you can go on and sign a pledge. You can go on to houseofjustice.us and sign a pledge that will hopefully alleviate these stressors.
Awesome. And this next bit of news is coming from our good friends at Casa Crea, and also a local event producer, Omega Spit. They are coming out with the 786 Film Festival, and it's a celebration to spotlight local filmmakers of all experience levels hosted by locals. And kind of like just a little bit on this, not only, quote, do we want these artists to receive exposure, but provide opportunities and resources to further their career in film. The name is inspired by the area code 786, which was created after all combinations of 305 were occupied. The title of 786 fit perfectly for this festival, representing a new generation of artists, in this case, filmmakers of all ages and backgrounds. So definitely check that out. May 26th. Really, honestly, super excited to see what they come up with.
One, yes. And lastly, we have the Varos. They're one of our first members to sign up. They just released a song today called Need a Break. So if you need a break, Go check out their song on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to music.
Shout out to the Vados.
To the Vados.
The
Love
homies.
them. Love them. We also have an artist, Ozzy Samper. They're offering private classes, so you can DM him as well for some private classes.
Yes. Hit up Mr. Samper if you want them classes. And anyways, in our news, in Pana MIA Club news, well, we said this last time, but I'm going to say it again because it's still pretty new. This is our first live show, PanaVizion. Okay, so yeah, if we're doing this podcast, if you want to be featured on this podcast, if you're interested, definitely reach out to us. We're going to be covering a person always people within our organization. So if you're not yet, you're always welcome to sign up. And then we, of course, we always try to bring in a music artist that is hopefully releasing new music around the time that we're filming.
Yes, big shout out to Miami Community Radio, who is having us as a resident here. So we're really, really happy with partnering with them. We also have incredible news. Next week, we're going to be interviewing our resident astrologer, Earth Bias.
Let me just say that again, our resident astrologer.
Yeah. Earth Bias. So Kat just joined us a month ago, April 12th. She's really interested in delving into astrology when it comes to activism and is really interested in kind of tying astrology all together, not just how we influence our lives, but how it can bring us together. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Absolutely. And you're going to see a lot more of her. We're going to be coming out with weekly collabs, hopefully a monthly newsletter. So we're going to talk about all of that next episode. You definitely can't miss. And then another really cool announcement that we wanted to come up with is May 19th, we are going to be doing a collab event with local ceramicist Wavy Creations. So she's been throwing these wonderful ceramic gatherings in her house in Coral Gables. Like, y'all, when I tell you, it is the most wholesome experience. You definitely don't want to miss. We're going to have it. It's the 19th, but really it's the new moon in Taurus, okay? So we're going to invite our resident astrologer to talk about the new moon in Taurus. We're going to be making moon jars. It's going to be real cute.
Under the mango tree. It's going to be incredible.
You're going to want to come. And then something else that is really interesting is that we also have an event coming up on the 2nd of June, and it is in collab with Backroom Sessions at Naomi's Garden. Details TBA, okay,
yes.
in terms of like lineup and concept and all of that, but the date is set.
We're keeping some secrets this week.
Yes.
More
to be
week.
revealed next week.
Yes. So that's it for Meanwhile in SoFlo. If you know of anything else interesting, you can always submit it every week. We'll ask our community, so feel free to reach out or DM us.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so now that we are all caught up with community things, we can finally bring in our lovely guest and querida pana, Sarah of Dear Eleanor.
Woo!
Yay! I'm gonna just scoot over, give her a little bit of space.
More the merrier.
Ooh, let's get her a mic. Would be nice.
Yes.
In the meantime, hi, love. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
So good. Thank you for coming on. We are
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. We are absolutely just super excited to talk to you. Ever since that we met you, it was like 2 weeks ago.
2-3 weeks ago, something like that.
2-3 weeks
Fast
ago.
friendship.
But, kind of one of those friendships that you just know great things are going to come out of.
Aligned. Yes.
Absolutely.
That word keeps showing up in these last couple months with all these things I've been doing. So I'm happy that you all feel the same way.
Yes. What an excellent sign. So just kind of like as a beginner question, right? Your name is Sarah, and you run Dear Eleanor, and that's all we know for now. So is there anything that you can tell me related to like what Dear Eleanor is, like who Sarah is?
So a little bit of background from me. I grew up in Miami, and I left in the fall of 2007 for college. I moved to New York, and I was up there until last year, really. And a lot of the people I graduated from Dash, class of 07, and a lot of the people in that class, and that's the art-minded people, left because there wasn't really a lot going on down here at that time. I moved up to New York. I wasn't doing art things. I was doing other things, meeting different people in the community, volunteering with different events, things like that. I ended up going to grad school and getting a master's in education with a focus in human sexuality.
Interesting.
So I was going down that path for a little bit, and then this particular opportunity presented itself, and it just felt like a really amazing way to sort of give back to a community that, you know, when I was in it, felt like it was lacking a little bit, but now there's so many people like you lovely humans, and like, honestly, the Gen Z people are killing it in Miami right now. It's really impressive what you kids are doing. And yeah, I've just been meeting so many cool folks, and I'm trying to make a space that's more accessible for, you know, normal people and people who live here in Wynwood, because it's really touristy and expensive and overrun right now.
Oh, definitely.
For sure.
I'm actually so excited about this space that you're opening up in Wynwood, because it's kind of like reintroducing some of that original energy that was kind of like before, when, you know, the artists were just like out on the streets and innovating and doing and just like creating new stuff, like kind of, and, you know, it's still alive, but it's the vibe has definitely changed. So kind of like re-injecting some of that space. And something that you said that was interesting was you said that like this opportunity presented itself. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about what that means.
So my father's and his family have been doing business in the Wynwood area, like before it was Wynwood, since like the early 80s, mid 80s. And I mean, for lack of a better description, I've been jokingly calling it a bribe. My dad was like, "Hey, do you want to live here?" And I was like, I'm looking at jobs in California, etc. But then when I realized that he was serious and not, you know, just trying to be a crazy person, I actually started thinking about it, and I was like, if I actually had access to a space without a lot of the traditional costs associated with being in a space like Wynwood.
Right.
I just thought it could be a really great way to sort of like use my privilege for good and give people who, you know, can't afford $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 rent for a night to have an art show or a pop-up or something like that. So I'm really trying to make space for people who are priced out of Wynwood right now and bring that more like indie underground energy like back into the area.
Oh my God, that is so fantastic and so needed. Claudia and I have definitely been there when it comes to the point of like, we're looking for a place to put on a show. We want to create this really good space. And then we're like, dang though, but like $600 for a night.
That's cheap.
And
that's cheap.
Like
for
kind of
some
mid.
the places that are in Wynwood. And so it's really amazing what you're doing and how you're giving back.
I appreciate that. Like,
Yeah.
late stage capitalism comes for us all, and trying to, like I said, use my privilege for good, alleviate some of that barriers for some people. Like, and I've been meeting so many amazing people through it, and like I'm really happy to be able to keep doing this.
Who are some of like these people that you're meeting and like starting to collaborate with? Because you've met, like, definitely you've been naming some names to us, and it's like incredible because it's actually a lot of people that are either already in our organization or at least like in this general network of creatives.
Yeah, it's a very small world down here, I'm learning. For instance, I was just at the Angels Only Market last weekend, and I bought this shirt by the lovely Melissa of Hand Stitch.
Helping Hand Stitch.
Helping
Yes.
Hand Stitching.
Shout out to Helping Hand Stitch.
And I didn't even know that they were already in the Pana network until I was coming for this today. So that's really great. I've also been talking with Pangea and Emily. She's of like Recreate Miami.
Yes.
We're talking about doing some workshops about upcycling materials, creative reuse, clothing swaps, thrifting, and just really being able to, skills that people have sort of slept on.
Right.
We want to have sewing classes. We want to have education classes. My partner, who's really been helping me a lot with this, shout out to Maxine, you're the best. She really is hyped on teaching young men who don't know how to tie ties, how to tie ties, and like doing maybe a resume workshop in the background or something. Like, we really
That's your partner, Maxine.
Yeah, she's not part of the Pana group. I'm just kidding. getting on a tangent now. Excuse me.
No, you're good.
No,
I
that's
just
such a cute event idea.
yes.
Yeah.
But so that's sort of like wholesome, community focused, like education, but still fun, is kind of what we want to do. We've also been working with the figure drawing pop-up MILFed.
Love them.
Man, I love figure drawing. Highly recommend. Let's see who else. Casa Crea, which they threw a tea and spoken word event a couple weeks ago at our space, and they had poetry, and people brought all different kinds of tea to share, and that was just lovely. And we're having another Casa Crea event on next Thursday, the 11th. That's going to be a collaborative art jam. Everybody's going to bring different supplies and, you know, make art together.
That is so cute. I'm so excited for that. I definitely will try to stop by for that event. And it's going to be the first, I think one of the first events in the space, correct?
Yes, it's actually going to be the second event in the official new space. We had been operating out of an unair conditioned warehouse. And finally, we are past that phase of our development, which I'm really excited about.
Hooray.
Yay for air conditioning.
Right
Last
in time
night,
for summer.
yeah, I knew that it was not sustainable, like past a certain point. But last night we actually had our first event in the new space. It was a little board game meetup through the community app Bloom, and just sort of organizing like a little like speed friending, they called it, like just getting to know people. And we played charades. It was very wholesome. And everybody had a really good time. Hopefully they'll be coming, you know, to future events. I heard you had something on the 19th. We also have a Shabbat dinner coming up on the 19th. We've thrown some family dinners, Jewish Shabbat. We're not super religious, but just trying to provide like a community alternative. There's like so many Jews in South Florida, and there's also a lot of people that are like Jew adjacent. So,
Right.
you know, like, and it's open to everybody. So we just have like food and music and people from different like arts communities and music communities, and just bringing everybody together. So that's going to be May 19th as well.
That sounds amazing. And I also hear that you're going to be celebrating something on that same day.
The May 19th event is also low-key my birthday party.
Yay!
It's also our artist in residence, Whitney Page's birthday as well. My birthday's earlier in the week. Her birthday is that actual day. So we like to throw these community dinners to bring people together, but we thought we would take advantage of the date for this one.
Awesome. Happy birthday. Happy early birthday to you both.
Thank you. Gotta love Taurus season.
Yes. I hope it's been treating you well.
So far, so good.
Awesome.
So you've touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to ask you like the why of your mission, right? And why exactly, like for you personally, do you feel just aligned with this, with what you're doing here in South Florida?
A lot of the events that we've done so far are things that like I personally believe in like very deeply, whether it's you know, a queer dinner, or I've thrown an event with the Democratic Socialist America for Trans Day of Visibility.
Cool.
Like I'm just trying to really like support these types of communities, and also maybe this is a little bit because I just moved back to Miami last year, but I've noticed that there's not really as much of a, what's the word? Like an already existing like community network as there was as much in New York. And it felt like in the 5 boroughs, no matter what you're interested in, like how niche or how weird your interest was, there will be a group that already is having like regular meetings, and you can just like find the Facebook group or the Discord server and show up, and it's already there, it exists. I've spoken to people and, you know, gotten the feeling that there's a little bit less of that down here. And the places that are, you know, communities that like, pause, rambling. We're just I'm trying to provide like an inclusive, wholesome, like chill, no pretentiousness, like, Wynwood is just so touristy, and $18 cocktails and like there's an ban at Dear Eleanor. We will not have it. And it's just I want there to be something different. Churchill's is gone. Las Rosas is gone.
Rip.
And millennials are heartbroken, and you can come hang out with us now.
But I mean, I was interested in what you were rambling about because you were starting to talk about kind of like the differences that you've observed between the NYC and the Miami scenes. And it's so interesting because, you know, like we're two cities that are on the East Coast and we have so many New Yorkers that are kind of like flocking to Miami.
60,000 in 2020 or 2021.
Yeah. I don't know if I would consider you one of them because you're from here originally. So
according to the IRS, I'm one of them, but I have a 305 cell phone number, so I think that supersedes where my previous payroll taxes were coming from.
True. So, I mean, I definitely wanted to ask you about like, because you were talking about how there are multitudes within multitudes kind of in New York. Like, you know, you find like a little corner and then that little corner has like, you know, its own like community and network and like super specific network, I guess like platform there. And sort of like moving to Miami, what are the main differences that you've observed kind of between the two environments?
The first and most notable example to come to mind is the sex positive community down here. In New York, there are dozens and dozens of different like adult oriented events in a variety of flavors. And you know, they, like I said, pre-existing, plug and play, like you can just like find the party and go to the party and meet people and you're done. There is a far less established community down here for those types of events. And I have been trying to go out and like meet people who are already trying to develop these communities down here. And what I'm hearing a lot of is that it's hard to find venues. It's hard to find comfortable venues. It's hard to find safe venues.
Right.
And the more and more I heard that, I was just like, oh, like Miami's ready. I have to do this.
Yes. And it's also really inaccessible, not even monetarily, but just like getting there.
Right. Yeah. Wynwood is sometimes a nightmare to navigate. Dear Eleanor has something that a lot of places in Wynwood don't, and that is, for the time anyway, free parking.
Yes.
And just being able to have a parking lot where you don't have to spend $25 to like, you know, park somewhere for the night, that in and of itself is great. So things like that, I'm just trying to make it more accessible. I'm trying to make things more inclusive. Every community dinner that we've had so far, there have been, you know, discount codes. We don't want anybody to feel like they can't attend an event for lack of funds.
Right.
There are people in the community, like we've been doing tiered ticket pricing for some things, so people can, you know, pay a little bit more if you are, you know, financially comfortable in your life, and then that'll sort of subsidize the people who are either attending for free or paying a little bit less. And that way the community can just sort of like support each other, you know, keep it all sort of within the same little network bubble.
That's really, really like integral to what we're trying to do as well. Just keep money within a community, because that person that spends $25 on parking, that's $25 that they can't spend on the local artist or the local musician. They can't go and buy merch because they just spent it on putting their car in a space.
In a space, like
4 hours.
Just like, it's such a wild concept to me. Parking, like, we've all gotten Wynwood tickets. How many Wynwood tickets have you gotten?
We just won, actually.
Just one? Okay, well, I definitely have like 4 or 5. Enrique got towed. So sorry to hear about that. So just like me lamenting my.
No, it's real. The struggle is real. Especially everything is so spread out in Miami. Public transportation, we're not, that's a subject for a different podcast. And just
we'll have a city developer here at some point.
That's so exciting. I love that.
Now we just have to find one.
Yeah, we just have to like materialize them, but once
the
we
universe
do,
for what you want.
No, we've been manifesting. We manifested a venue with you, so
Amazing.
look at that.
Yes. Oh, hey, let's take this opportunity to talk about that. Actually,
Yes. So our first event with Dear Eleanor is going to be on the 27th, right?
Mm-hmm.
27th.
Yes.
Yeah, Saturday the 27th.
Yes.
Yes.
So Club
And
de Pana. It's another Club de Pana, which we've been doing these. We did one last month, and it was a little bit to celebrate Annette's birthday, but it was also like a test trial to see like how people responded to an event that was more low key, like a a little bit of art, a little bit of yoga, a little bit of movement, connection, like just intimate conversations. And it was really well received. So we're planning on doing it bi-weekly with Sarah at Dear Eleanor.
I'm so excited to be able to host this. One of the things that I'd really been, fantasizing about, like manifesting maybe when thinking about this space, is I want to do markets with a bunch of different local vendors, and I want to have different creators come and talk about the stuff that they make and their passions and all of that stuff. And it really just feels like Club de Pana is like exactly that. And I'm really excited to meet all of the different folks that we're going to have cycle through these events. I feel like it's going to be really good, and people can just be in a room together and see what each other's working on. And I think when you put everybody in a space together and give people opportunities to connect and talk to each other, that's when the good shit happens. So I'm just hoping to foster more of that.
Yeah, when you peel away all the pretenses and all of the things that hold us back, right. I think, yeah.
Worry less about your outfit, just show up.
Yes.
Absolutely. And our event is definitely, that is super the intention. We really want to make sure that this club becomes a platform that we can regularly have other people come and do their own workshops. And the first 2 weeks, it's probably just going to be me leading art activities and Clari doing yoga. But after that, we're definitely already have a clothing swap in the plans that is going to be also an inclusive clothing swap. We want to make sure that we're bringing in vendors, that every time we have this club, that there is an intention behind it, and that we can include more and more of our members into it. So just super excited, especially in tandem with this podcast, that we now have 2 solid avenues of hey, you're going to join our directory, you're going to join our platform, and here are 2 avenues that right off the bat we can offer you for you to get in front of more locals, more people, consumers in Miami that are looking at your stuff.
And to integrate yourself into community too. I think a lot of times it's really difficult to find like-minded people. And there are no, the apps that are out there are made to make money. They're not made for connection. That's not the objective of the things that you find. So I'm really excited that more people are interested in providing that for people and making it accessible, because we also don't have the time to be scrolling on Instagram all our lives.
We have the time, but is that how you want to spend it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
I'd rather spend it with
Instagram does not make it easy. Let's make that clear.
No.
I am so bad at Instagram. I was told by a friend at the very, very beginning of the Dear Eleanor journey that the Instagram was giving Arizona MLM mom vibes.
Oh no.
It was constructive criticism that I needed. I respect her for it. Sometimes you need the friends to tell you the hard truths.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's a learning process. This entire project has been a learning process for me. I've never worked in this field before. I'm sort of patchworking skills from various other things that I've done to put together to figure out how to do this. And it's just, I've been learning a lot from every single person that I've met, you both included. So it really has been a community journey, since we started throwing events in January.
That's how it's felt for us as well. I think with our events and with other things, we're just hey, can you help us to our members? And they're just yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that it speaks to how much people believe in community and how much people are willing to give when they find alignment, like we've said.
Yeah, and how receptive they are to just kind of recognizing that this is something that is good for them, and that is good for the community in general. It's been kind of that acknowledgement of alignment, again, that word, and then just yes, let's bring it into fruition. And it's incredible because I've met people that have been in the community for a long time, and that quite frankly have become jaded and really
It's
just
so
like
easy,
mad
though.
Yes.
and upset, and they're like, no, you don't understand, like Miami, like just people here are like out to make money and they don't care and they'll step over you. And luckily that really hasn't been our experience. And I think part of the reason that is like helping that is like there is like a community that is now coming out that is trying to more intentionally foster those connections. And it's also the way that we're moving that is like, hey, you know, we really are just trying to connect people, and we're doing it in good faith, and then kind of like inviting that in. And you know, that doesn't say that like things won't happen. It won't.
Yeah, I definitely think that those types of people are still in Miami. That's definitely the reputation that, at least when it comes to entertainment and like that throwing parties and that type of stuff in Miami, that vibe is still definitely out there. But I think the people that I have so far been working with, and I think you might agree with me when I say this, is that when you start putting the people like first rather than the profit, like the money will come because people are having a good time. And people will stay to hang out and like order another drink and buy merch and like do all these things. But it's because you're putting the focus on the people and their creative work.
Absolutely.
And everything else will just flow from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's been our case too. And I think to some degree, we're kind of like dreaming up the world that we want to live in. And I think that there's a lot of people who are into that once they are allowed to dream as well. Once they like aren't dreaming alone. It's really difficult for you to like imagine a world that you want to inhabit when it's just you against like the forces of the universe and the system that we're in. So I think that the other thing that has been really successful is we're all dreaming together pretty much collectively. And whatever it is that we're all dreaming collectively, that's what's going to come out of it. So
I love that.
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right.
Well, yeah, we can just like wrap up this interview. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation.
Thank you so much
Sarah.
for having me.
Actually, I did want to ask you one last question.
Shoot.
So, what does Dear Eleanor mean?
Oh, yes.
Like the most basic question, actually.
Okay, so Dear Eleanor came from when I realized that I was going to be living in Florida long term and being a small business owner in Florida. I went out and bought a bunch of like history of Florida books because like I know that things are, to put it lightly, a little politically messy here, and I kind of wanted a little bit more background of exactly what I was getting myself into. So I went out and bought this book called Finding Florida. I don't remember the name of the author, but it's like this long and it has a yellow and green cover. It's excellent, highly recommend. And very, very early on in that book was a story about a widow who moved down to Miami in the 30s with her son. And Miami was a very, very young city. There was not a lot of, like resources. I mean, people lived here, but there wasn't like shopping malls or Macy's or anything like that. And people in Miami have always been really, really bad at handling winter. So winter rolled around and this woman was freezing and wrote a letter to the White House asking for a coat. And number one, I just think that that's hilarious. Like, she probably moved down from the Northeast, like what, you ditched every single coat that you own? Like, but, that's fine. The Goodwills down here are like popping for ski clothes. Like, things haven't really changed that much.
Right.
But anyway, so she wrote a letter to the White House asking for a jacket. She asked the First Lady. The First Lady at the time was Eleanor Roosevelt. So Dear Eleanor Roosevelt just sort of got stuck in my head after that. And I was sort of chewing on that idea, and the more I thought about it, I was like, no, this is exactly the type of community support that gets me excited about doing a venue in Miami. People asking for help when they need it, people setting a boundary and saying like, no, I can't actually do that for you. She did not get sent the coat. Eleanor Roosevelt did not mail it to her, unfortunately. But she asked, and, just doing what you can and asking people around you, like when you need a little bit of extra support, just like really spoke to me. So, Dear Eleanor, let's help keep each other warm.
Oh, I love that. That's incredible. And sometimes it really is just asking. It really is just asking. So yes, now, thank you for that lovely conversation, Sarah. Please make sure to check out Dear Eleanor on Instagram. It's at Dear
Eleanor, ELEANOR. Dear Eleanor 305 on Instagram.
Awesome. And the South Florida location where you are at, which is in
we're in Wynwood. We're on 28th Street, and right now we're open by event only, but in the next few months we will be gearing up to regular weekly opening hours, and people can just come swing by, hang out, make some art, listen to music.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Love
just
that.
Loitering around in Wynwood.
Love
Can
that.
you believe it? I can barely believe it.
Welcome to the dream.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. We're actually going to be inviting now Enrique.
Yes.
So we're
Stillblue.
Yes, from Stillblue. So we're super excited to introduce a new addition to our Pana community, Enrique of Stillblue. Stillblue is a 5-piece band emulsifying indie rock, folk, and alt country with lyrics meditating on love, loss, and getting older in the perspiring humidity of Miami, Florida, which we can definitely relate to.
Very specific. I love it.
Hi, Enrique. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you all so much for having me, Sarah. Let me put this down. Thank you so much, and really amazing hearing Sarah and everything that she's doing. So really cool to be here today.
That's awesome.
I wanted to ask real quick if we can play like a little bit of your new EP,
Yeah.
Paint Me Funny. Can we?
So we need to reformat the USB
Oh no.
compatible record box.
Oh, okay.
So no.
Unfortunately, we can't do that.
Okay.
Totally okay. You can
Okay.
check it out on streaming, out everywhere. Paint Me Funny.
Absolutely.
Really funny. Well, you guys are missing out because I love your promo for this
Thank you.
music video.
Yeah.
First of all,
Thank you.
how did you come up with this? A band of clowns.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've been doing this. Oh, sorry. We've been doing this now for a while. The band we got together. Well, I started looking for people in 2019, but we didn't get. We went through a couple iterations of the band as things go. Up until 2022 was our first full year of actually playing shows together. Once we brought in our bass player and our drummer, that were like the last missing pieces of the puzzle. And we started recording, and then one of the first songs that we really like conglomerated, to, or just like melded with, was "Paint Me Funny." It was a song that I wrote in 2018. So we released an EP that we started recording through the pandemic, really remotely because of the pandemic, when it was just me, Sophia, and Danny. So we were sending stems back and forth, and we recorded this EP. But now we're getting ready to release some of our songs that are a little bit more, a little bit more full band, like reflective of what we sound like now and what we sound like in person. And that first song was "Paint Me Funny," and basically this song is about the reason that we chose the clown motif is because so this I just did a Stillblue story time, the first one yesterday, talking a little bit about this. But long story short is,
Definitely check that out, by the way.
yeah, it was our first
super
one.
cool.
I tell a lot of stories on stage, so we were like, we got to cut this down. Let's do this
Storyteller
online.
first, musician next.
Exactly. But basically, I was working at a camp program at FIU in like 2018 when I was about to graduate, and I met this one student who painted religious figures as clowns. So that like stuck in my head. I thought that was super interesting. I was like thinking about that a lot. And then when I sat down to write something, that phrase came into my head, "Paint Me Funny." And the song like went on a couple different meaning iterations as songs do. They change, meaning for myself a lot of the times as things go. But it started off, like I think that the meaning started off about, the way that people that you love, or the way that, family sometimes, or yourself can make you feel, dumb for pursuing things creatively and artistically. But over time, it's like, it's really changed the meaning with Stillblue, and now it feels like it's about, when people that you love, all of a sudden this like really sacred, beautiful relationship might, turn into something that this person's making you look silly or feel silly. So we decided to go with the clown motif to like really lean into the whole "Paint Me Funny" thing. So we dressed up as clowns. We went all over the city. We shot a bunch of stuff, and now we are clown noir for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because you're having everything black and white too.
Yeah, that was a change as well. Yeah, our friend at the New Times wrote about that before the release. Yeah, I mean it's temporary, because like we're about to release 4 songs back to back that we got to record last year at Animal Music Studios.
Nice.
So we really wanted to like mark a change, starting off with "Paint Me Funny." So we were like, let's go black and white. Let's like really mark this. But we're gonna be introducing a little bit more color. We've got some ideas as to like how we're gonna market the next 3 songs. Yeah.
Awesome. I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about like kind of more like introductory stuff, just because like your group is still like a little bit new to me. So I've been seeing your name around. You guys have been playing so many shows, and it has been really interesting because you're around like a lot of names that I like as well. And kind of the first time that we were in the same space, that I was like, that is Stillblue, is actually during Las Rosas' last live show.
Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was happening was that it was the first it was like the album release of Folktale San Pedro. Shout out to them. I love them so much.
Yeah, they're incredible.
They asked me to vend as my artwear brand, Alo Baby.
Okay.
And I was like sitting there vending. So I was actually outside for most of the event. So I wasn't able to like listen to you guys play. But something that did like stay with me was when I looked at your merch table and, you know, like artist to artist, right? Solid graphics, super like great composition. You guys use, I think they were cyanotypes. They looked like cyanotypes.
Yeah, the cover of Flora is a cyanotype, and we've done that a lot. We really like messing with the printmaking.
Beautiful, beautiful. Like 100% caught my eye, and I was just like, ugh, there's nothing that I like better more than like a musical like group, right? Or like artist that is able to kind of convey their music in also like a visual medium. But that's, you know, that's just me. And then I also listened to your music and it was great. I loved it too.
Thank you. No,
I'm just like a geek about.
When it comes to that, I'll say first and foremost, I mean, there's so much to say about that Sarah brought up as well. And first of all, just wanted to say, you know, the work that you're doing with Dear Eleanor, hearing about that is exactly what we talk about at Stillblue, and that we've talked about, you know, of what we want to do and where we want to go with the communities and what you all are doing. It's just really cool to be in a space with people that are thinking the same way and are passionate about these things, right? It's like, you know, making sure that we're cultivating this creative space in Miami. It's really important. And it goes back to what you were talking about. But first and foremost, I'll say the graphics. Thank you for that. And like my teammate, not my teammate, my bandmate, right? Well, teammate too, but we're super DIY. We do everything ourselves, right? So we record everything ourselves, we mix, we master. You know, sometimes we get our friends to do it now with like these releases, but everything we do is really in-house. And Sophia, which is my guitar player and singer, you know, one of my bandmates, she's like my musical soulmate, and she's really like the driving force behind all of that. She has, you know, designed all of our shirts, designed all of our merch. She designs our flyers. She's really incredible. She just had, she's about to graduate from FIU, and she had her like exhibition, and she showcased a lot of the, like, we just put up a bunch of flyers promoting Paint Me Funny all over the city. She did all of that. She did the shirt that Eddie's wearing. So it's really her, and she's really incredible. And, you know, we go back and forth and on like what we should do, what we shouldn't do, but she's the driving force of like all of the graphics and the shirts and the merch that we make.
That's incredible. Congratulations to her for graduating, by the way.
Yeah, she's the best. But I will say real quick about that night. And it goes back to what we were talking about with Sarah and Dear Eleanor and all of these places that closed. Even the first night that I met Eddie at Underground Coffee House in Fort Lauderdale, we spoke about this. Yeah, it's a huge problem. And that day was unknowingly, we played the last show ever at Las Rosas, you know? We had no idea it was going to be that way.
Yeah.
We also, like, we ran into some trouble that day just because there was so much chaos. But, you know, we got there to the venue to unload and to sound check, and then all of a sudden we just start, you know, we're on the stage sound checking, we're the first ones sound checking, and then people all of a sudden just start coming in crying, and we're like, what is going on, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we hear that this is the last night of Las Rosas, it's gone forever. It was a goal of ours to even play on that stage, and I'm so happy that we were able to do that. But it was so sad, you know, to see these you know, these titans in like the local, you know, music scene closing. Churchill's we never got to play. I've been to a billion shows in Churchill's, but, you know, once the pandemic came around, you know, and we were still establishing ourselves. Space Mountain was another one, another really cool DIY space that closed because of the pandemic, and it's really horrible, you know. So places like Dear Eleanor opening, we were trying to open up a venue space in Coconut Grove that was halted a little bit, that we're like waiting on some permits for, with Anthony Witherspoon, who owns this like really cool plot of land on Grand Avenue. But it's a problem, and it's sad, and we need to support each other and support spaces like Dear Eleanor, you know, that are really trying to do the hard work of keeping the community alive and giving spaces for people to be creative.
Yeah. And that's super interesting that you were talking about that space in Coconut Grove. I'd love to talk to you about that like some other time. But what I definitely wanted to ask you about kind of like the start of Stillblue.
Yeah, tell me if I talk too much. I'm sorry. I talk way too much. So
No,
That's what you're here to do. So
yeah.
yes. So yeah, tell us a little bit about how you started and your particular why, or why for you, and maybe if you have an idea of why for your band members as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I first and foremost, I think I would like to say that I'm a first-generation immigrant. So I was born in Peru, came here when I was 2 years old, and I've lived in Miami my entire life. Right. For a long time, it was really difficult for my parents. I love my parents with all my heart. We're so close. They are like my best friends. I love them with all my heart. But, it was always really difficult for them to understand the music thing ever since I was a kid. I wanted to play the guitar as long as I could remember. There's like videos of me pretending to play when I was like a toddler, so started playing when I was 12, and as I got older, when I was in high school, I started playing shows alone, like around the city. I had a band in high school, but nothing serious. It was hard because my parents didn't really want me to like take it seriously. They were like, focus on the studies. It's the first gen thing. They just want to make. It's not because they weren't trying to support me. It's because they just wanted to make sure that I was safe and financially stable in the future. And so I would get into fights with them a ton, and especially when I was in college. And I was trying to take it a little bit more seriously. I produced like a little solo EP that's really bad, so I'm not even going to mention that. But, so we would fight all the time. But, they would always say, once you graduate college and you have a job, what are we going to tell you? We can't tell you anything. So I feel like I wasn't, like I was always writing music and I was always going for this, but I didn't really try to take it seriously until 2019 when I graduated college. And then I was like, all right, like there's nothing else you can say now. Like you got to go out there and do this. So I had just come back from an internship in Chicago, and I was like, all right, like no more procrastinating. Put up flyers all over the city in FIU, UM, in strategic locations, Wynwood. And I met Danny first, our lap steel player, keys player. He's like a virtuoso. He didn't start off playing the lap steel, that was something that we asked him to try, and he's like an incredible musician, so he picked it up, and it's a really big part of the band. But I met Danny first because he saw a flyer that I put up in FIU in the School of Music. And
yo, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Your band formed because you were just like, hey, who wants to play with me?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, it was very grassroots. It was very like, and it felt impossible. And that's one of the things that it makes me kind of emotional sometimes, because like I think about, we just went on our first tour. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent. Thank you. We went on our first tour, and I had gotten off the stage, and there was like a few kids that came up to me and they were like, hey, it's so cool seeing another brown person in like the indie scene, and like on stage. And I talked to them for a while, and I just remember, being younger and feeling like it was impossible to start a band and not seeing brown people like me either in the indie rock scene or in the indie folk scene. But back to this, found Danny, then I found Sophia at Space Mountain at a show on Halloween. She was drunk and dressed as Phoebe Bridgers, and we bonded. Yeah, we bonded, and then so I brought her in after like the first iteration of Stillblue fell apart because people weren't serious. It's hard to find people that are really trying to be serious about this.
Right.
And so then for a while it was just me, Sophia, and Danny. We were auditioning people to come into Stillblue for bass and for drums literally the week that the pandemic started. So we had met Yamil, our bass player. I had met him a while ago when I was playing solo shows. He was a good friend, and he auditioned. But then the pandemic happened literally the week that we were doing interviews. And then we went into pandemic mode, and we were like, oh, this will be over in like a month, and then it wasn't. So then we were, Sophia, Danny, and I were sending stems back and forth, and that's where Flora started, our EP Flora. And then when things started getting better, we did another round of auditions, and we met, Yamil came back in, and we were, more than happy to bring him in. It was a no-brainer. We knew we wanted him. And then, we had another drummer who was great, and he's really, really nice. And he just messaged me about Pay Me Funny. But it just didn't work out. He was a little bit younger, so he was like doing high school stuff, and I was like, dude, you got to go do high school stuff. Like, enjoy this time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
So then we brought in Diego, who was in a band with Sophia previously, and he is mainly a guitar player, but his first instrument was drums. So we met up with him. He auditioned, and he was the last missing piece of the band. And you know, one of the biggest things for me when I was looking for band members is that I was looking for people that were serious, but people that I could be friends with, that could like cultivate a really beautiful relationship with. And I'm really lucky, you know, little by little that I found that. And they're my best friends, some of the only people I talk to. So I'm like really, really happy. It took forever and it felt impossible. But if you are a person trying to do it, it feels impossible and it will happen little by little. And I really encourage you to do it.
Oh, that's incredible. And
so
I'm so
cute.
sorry that we weren't able to play your song, but I'm also
No
happy
problem.
because it gave us more time to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk
to
a
hear
lot.
your
So
stories. Yeah, thank you so much for talking to us. Do
No,
not go
no problem.
anywhere though. We're done with the music segment, but we're here for our last segment called Keke, which is a segment where we're all gonna come in. So Sarah, come back.
this is so cool.
Yeah, we're gonna ask questions. So
From our viewers.
from our viewers. So we asked on our stories for questions, and
Here,
y'all
we'll share 'em, Mike.
answered. And so here we are.
Yes, we'll each answer one. So the first one is going to be for you, Sarah. So I'm going to ask you, this is a question from B Soul. And she's asking, what's most important to you, money, power, love, or security?
That is a heavy question that I was not expecting to get. Money, love, power, or security? I mean, I guess the answer that feels good to say is love. And that has to do with all other three. I have a degree in sexuality. I can tie this up into one knot. Like, they're all the same thing. What are you talking about? Vibes, community, that's what's important to me. And maybe love is the closest out of those four to that.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you for that answer. And then next we have from @SpunkyNews. This one is for you, Enrique. What does Stillblue mean to you?
Oh, great question, Spunky News. Winner of our most recent shirt giveaway.
Nice.
I will say, you know, still people ask me that question, and none of us can remember how we came up with this name, funny enough. We're like, where did this come from? And I'm like, Sophia, you said it. She's like, no, you said it. And I don't remember how we came to this. But what I always think about, I think I'll take it two directions. Number one, I think of like a still blueness, you know, like that's the way I interpret the name literally in my head. Like when you look out your window and it, like the sky is very still and very blue, like that pale blue stillness is kind of like what I envision. But also, you know, like I was mentioning, to me, Stillblue is something. It's not a 2-year endeavor. It is a lifelong endeavor that I'm so happy and honored to have finally gotten to. It's a group of people that I care deeply about, and it's a group of people that are trying their hardest to just make the most honest, music possible. So that's what I would say that means to me.
Awesome. Oh, I wanted to add, because we didn't do this. So you can find Stillblue on Instagram at Stillblue, and where else?
Well, so you can look us up on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of that stuff under Stillblue Band at Stillblue Band. And Bandcamp, all of that good stuff. You can look us up on any streaming platform. Stillblue. We got Flora EP out. We just came out with Paint Me Funny last week, and we've got 3 more songs back to back coming, very, very soon, and then a lot more. We could record a whole album, but we're working on it slowly. So check us out. Check us out on TikTok too. We're trying to do that really hard. We're trying to get better at that. It's hard. It's very difficult. It's really tough.
Are we asking ourselves questions?
Well, you asked me.
Okay, I'm asking you a question. What has been your favorite part of Pana MIA so far?
Okay. So my favorite part of Pana MIA so far, I think, honestly, has been, this is cheesy, whatever. It's been the collaboration. Yeah.
Having Enrique and Sarah on.
Yes, for sure. But I mean, as a whole, kind of like since we started this project in August, it's kind of been like such a whirlwind, and there has been like so many like great things happening since then. And then I feel like our dynamic has kind of like allowed for just so many crazy, awesome things to happen. And it really has not been easy, but it also has been so crazy fun. Amazing. And so like just a lot of crazy things that just like happen out of nowhere, and then just feel like boom, like I thought about it, and then now it's in front of me, and now we can like work with all of these awesome people in the community to create something like that. I don't know, you just kind of like only dream about, except
It
it's
seems larger
happening.
than life in a way.
Yeah.
Like, feels
So-
like pinch me, Annette. Like, like, is this real? But yeah.
Definitely. Okay. So I'll do you now. I'll do you now. What is it? Okay. So what is the biggest hurdles when making Pana MIA and or PanaVizion? So you can choose.
I know that we said that, we've been meeting a lot of people who are aligned and great, but I want to mention, I think the hardest part for us has been really when we do meet these people who are just so entrenched in individualism. And it's not really difficult because like it's not our job to like change that mindset. It's just difficult to watch because it can be so much easier. Like it can be so much easier and it can feel so much better when it's in community, when it's in a group, when you don't have to like pull yourself up by the bootstraps, when it's on a handout, it's like people wanting to help, people wanting to be there for you. And so I guess that's like the hardest part for me personally to like see and to be around. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I hope that we can kind of contribute to like this mind shift towards community where it's like, hey, we can all work together and then all succeed together. Like it's not, my success comes at the expense of yours, kind of like deprogramming that.
It's not like that we can get ahead together. It's like that's the only way. That's the only way for us to be able to like change the world that we live in. So it's just, yeah.
Can I add a quick thing to that? Super quick.
Yeah.
Super quick.
It's like it was something that so much of your conversation, I was like, oh my God, I want to jump in there. So much of what you said, but it's like what you were saying. It's like, what you all are bringing back to. It's like, why isn't there like more community here in Miami? And I feel like, it's so hard because we're also, geographically separated by such big distances. But I think there is a big community in Miami, a big like feeling in Miami in these creative spaces of like, oh, I gotta, make it myself. And if I make it, I'll help out who I can, but I'm not really trying to like look out for the people that are coming up. And I think things like this is why it's so important to do this, to like bring everybody up together and to cultivate that feeling of community and helping everybody. Is what we really need.
Yeah, it's about thinking about the generation that's coming next too.
Yeah.
It's about making it easier for them.
Thank you so much for that, you guys. Thank you, panel. This has been Keke. To submit your questions for an upcoming episode, DM us on Instagram or Twitter at Pana MIA Club.
Yes, dale mi gente linda. Well, with this, we conclude our first ever episode of PanaVizion. Join us next week to learn more about creatives and entrepreneurs working to change their communities. And next week, we're going to have Earth Bayas come on and talk about astrology and activism.
Yes, and then we'll see who our musical guests will be. And if you enjoyed this podcast, if you want to start engaging with our fellow panas, please leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, everybody. Bye. Thank you for tuning in.